The rope bit into her wrists as her feet dangled helplessly above the dirt road. The laughter of the boys below echoed through the trees, cruel and sharp like knives. Her heart pounded, not because of the height, but because she couldn't believe it had come to this. Grown men, neighbors she had once trusted, had strung her up like some twisted spectacle, all because she had stood up to them. Emily Parker had never been one to bow her head. Life on a farm had taught her resilience. She had milked cows at dawn, hauled hay under the blazing sun, and managed the land with her own calloused hands. But nothing had prepared her for the cruelty of men who couldn't stand being outshined by a woman. It started small: taunts, snide remarks at the town market, whispered insults about how she didn't belong running a farm without her husband around. But Emily kept pushing forward, her chin high and her voice steady. Then one day, she refused to sell her crop at the price they dictated, calling them out for cheating smaller farmers. That was when the bullying turned vicious. Now, she swung helplessly in the treetop, her body scraping against the rough bark, the bullies standing below with smug grins. "Let's see how long she lasts up there," one sneered, tossing a rock that hit her shoulder. Her breath caught, her vision blurred with tears, but her spirit refused to break. She prayed silently, not for herself, but for her son waiting back at the farmhouse. What the bullies didn't know was that Emily's husband, Jake, wasn't far away. He wasn't just any man, he was a combat medic turned medical helicopter pilot. For months, he had been deployed on missions across the state, saving lives from the sky. He wasn't due home until the following week. But fate has a way of twisting the darkest moments into miracles. Exactly 47 seconds after the bullies strung her up, the distant thrum of rotor blades thundered through the air. At first, the men smirked, thinking it was coincidence. But as the helicopter descended, dust swirling around them, their faces turned pale. The insignia on the side, Medical Rescue Unit 17, was unmistakable. Inside, Jake's sharp eyes scanned the chaos. He saw his wife, bound and hanging, her face red with strain. His heart froze, but his training kicked in. He landed the helicopter with precision, the bullies scattering like startled rats. Before the blades even slowed, Jake sprinted toward the tree. "Emily," he shouted, his voice cracking. She looked down, relief flooding her eyes, though her lips trembled too much to answer. With swift hands, he cut her free, lowering her gently into his arms. For a moment, time seemed to stop, the world reduced to his trembling hands brushing the tears from her face. "You held on," he whispered, his voice breaking. "You came," she breathed, her voice weak but filled with love. But the fight wasn't over. The bullies hadn't run far, they stood at the edge of the clearing, anger and shame twisting T. The rope cut into her wrists, and Emily Parker's body swung helplessly from the thick branch of an old oak tree. The laughter of the bullies below was louder than the cicadas in the summer air, cruel and taunting. They had strung her up like some grotesque trophy, her feet dangling above the dusty road. She bit back a scream. Not because of the pain, but because of the humiliation. These weren't strangers, these were men she had known her whole life. Neighbors. Town boys turned bitter men. And now, they were punishing her for daring to stand tall when they wanted her silent. Emily Parker was no stranger to hardship. Raised on the land, she had learned resilience early, hauling water at dawn, mending fences in storms, and planting crops with blistered hands. But ever since her husband, Jake, had taken a position as a medical helicopter pilot, the whispers had started. She can't run the farm on her own. She should sell and move to town. She's just a woman. She doesn't belong in a man's world. At first, it was words. Then came petty sabotage, tools missing, fences cut, hay bales set on fire. And when she fought back, refusing to bow her head, the bullies escalated. That day had started like any other. Emily had gone to town to deliver fresh produce, standing at the market stall with pride. But when the ringleader, Clay Turner, mocked her again for thinking she's better than everyone, she fired back. She told him in front of half the town that his bullying days were numbered, that strength wasn't measured in cruelty. The humiliation had stung him deeply. And Clay didn't forgive. So now, here she was, tied and hung in the treetop while the bullies jeered below. "Let's see how long she can last up there," one of them sneered. "She should have learned her place," another spat. Emily clenched her jaw, refusing to give them the satisfaction of tears. But in her heart, fear gnawed. Not for herself, but for her young son, Daniel, waiting at home. What if she didn't make it back? Then, like thunder splitting the sky, the distant sound of rotor blades echoed. At first, the bullies smirked, thinking it was coincidence. But as the thumping grew louder, closer, their confidence faltered. The helicopter came into view, sleek and powerful, lowering over the tree line. Dust and leaves whipped into the air as it descended, drowning out their laughter. Painted across its side were the words Medical Rescue Unit 17. And inside was Jake Parker. Jake had been rerouted home early after a mission, unaware of the horror awaiting him. But the second his eyes locked onto Emily, bound and hanging, the world narrowed into a blur of rage and fear. He landed with surgical precision, the bullies stumbling back, their smirks gone. Before the blades even stopped spinning, Jake was out, sprinting toward the tree. Emily. His voice cracked as he reached for her. His knife sliced through the ropes, and he lowered her gently into his arms. Her wrists were raw, her face pea.